Hey guys, Dennis here. To briefly describe what this video is to the new subscribers, Spooky Storytime with Dennis is a format of video in which I tell my own stories, my own experiences of the past that may be a bit spooky or weird. Please keep in mind that I tell these stories from the top of my head, and therefore this video will be far less formal than my regular ones. So this happened when I was 22 years old and I was staying in Japan for a week to visit a friend. For those of you who don't know, I was born in New York but raised in several different countries and Japan's one of them. I was in Osaka at the time instead of Tokyo, which is the city I grew up in, because my old best friend Masaki from Tokyo had moved to Osaka after graduating college. The reason for the move was job and girlfriend related but not relevant to this story, and so I won't go into it. So day one in Japan, I checked out of the hotel because Masaki insisted that I should stay at his place. That really surprised me because we hadn't seen each other since we were children. I mean, we still felt this strong bond with each other because we were such good friends back in the days. But reconnecting as adults, I thought there would be some warming up period, and there wasn't. I felt completely comfortable with Masaki and it felt the same way. It was like I had never left Japan in the first place. However, there was an issue of a girlfriend. She lived with him, and that's why I wanted to stay at a hotel. I mean, you put yourself in the girlfriend's shoes and you are basically being told to live under the same roof with a total stranger who happens to be a grown man, a friend of your boyfriend, and that friend is someone your boyfriend hasn't seen in over a decade. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't have been too happy if I were her. With that said, Masaki insisted and insisted some more that I should stay at his place, and in the end I had to oblige. You can only say no so many times. Fortunately for all of us, he did have an additional bedroom at his place, which is kind of rare for young couples because rent is expensive and you try to save money wherever and however you can. It was still kind of uncomfortable though. The thing about Japan is that everything is small there. People are minimalist when it comes to size of things, so it goes without saying the average square footage of homes there are smaller compared to the US. For example, an average studio apartment in New York City is about 500 square foot, as opposed to Japan, where the same square footage would apply to a one-bedroom apartment in Tokyo. It's all about efficiency for the Japanese people, and in some ways, we've got a lot to learn from them when it comes to living without access. But this is not a lesson in social responsibility, so let's get back to the story. I was uncomfortable with the idea of staying at Masaki's, but thankfully for me, the girlfriend really went out of her way to make me feel comfortable. Her name's Koharu, by the way, and she was 21 at the time if I recall correctly. The first time I met Koharu was on the same day that Masaki had picked me up from the hotel. Masaki and we hung out in the city and went to his home in the evening. Koharu was back from work by that time and she greeted us when we came home. I remember the first thing she said was, "Wow, you're tall." And that kind of caught me by surprise because I'm not really that tall by American standard. I'm 6'2", so I'm only slightly taller than the average male. But in Japan, of course, I'm kinda like a giant. And by the way, I'm not being a racist here. I'm an Asian man. If I say something derogatory about my own race, then that would be akin to shooting myself in the foot. But yeah, Koharu didn't even say hajimemashite, which is to say nice to see you or nice to meet you, and just straight on said, "Wow, you're really tall." And that kind of took me by surprise because, generally speaking, Japanese women are reserved and very polite when you first meet them. So I just figured she's a really fun person most likely. That evening, we ate together, we spoke a little with my broken Japanese, then went to bed. Then it was around 2 a.m. I heard someone opening the door to my bedroom. I heard it, then opened my eyes just slightly, and I could see someone standing by the door. For a second there, I thought about asking who it was, but then I thought if that's Koharu, perhaps she made a mistake and opened my door instead of hers. It was an unlikely mistake to make in your own home, but I really didn't want to embarrass her, if that was her. Not long after, the door closed and I just let it slide. I wasn't going to make a big deal out of it at 2 in the morning at my friend's apartment, who I haven't seen in over a decade. So I closed my eyes and went to sleep again. The next morning, it's business as usual. They had breakfast with me, even though they normally skip it when they don't have guests. Koharu went to work first, and right before Masaki stepped out, I asked him if he had checked up on me the previous night. Right after the question, he had this puzzled look on his face. So I rephrased the question and said, "Someone opened my door at 2 a.m. and I was just wondering if that was you." To which he responded, "Koharu, she sleepwalks. It started when we moved to this apartment. I don't think she's adjusting well, and I believe it's because this is the first time she's moved in with a boyfriend. But it's not so bad that you should concern yourself over it. She does that a couple of times a month. It's harmless though. She doesn't do anything rash while she sleepwalks. I'm really sorry though." That's the gist of what he said. And that was it. Masaki went to work. I went out for sightseeing and shopping, then came back home around 7 in the evening. I had dinner at a restaurant because I didn't want to bother my hosts. The three of us went out for a drink at 9 and returned a couple of hours thereafter. Masaki was taking a day off the next day so he could hang out with me, and so I went to bed right away when we got home. I didn't know what time it was, but I woke up again in the middle of the night. I had my back against the door, and so I rolled over so I could get off the bed and go to the bathroom. I swear to God, my heart stopped for what felt like a full second before it began beating again. As soon as I got off the bed, I saw Koharu standing by my bed. She wasn't by the door this time. No, she was right beside my bed. So when I got up, my chest was about 3 inches from her face. Imagine how scared you would be if the same happened to you. I mean, I nearly screamed and could have pooped too had I chickened out just a tiny bit more. I didn't know what to do. Do I wake her up? Do I leave her be? And then of course the answer was obvious. Go get Masaki. I carefully wiggled out of the tiny space between the bed and Koharu. I was about to walk forward and then nearly soiled my pants again when she grabbed my wrist. I mean, this girl was sleeping. What the fuck is going on? Oh man, I think I began sweating a little. I was really nervous and I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I've never encountered a sleepwalker before. Some seconds passed by, then I sort of twisted my upper body to look at her and got another scare when I saw that her eyes were wide open. She then whispered something, but I couldn't make out what she was trying to say. It just seemed like she was still asleep, but her eyes were clearly open and her mouth was talking somehow. I asked her, "Koharu, are you awake?" And she didn't respond at all, so I used my other hand to release her grip, left her in the room and went to get Masaki. Masaki actually had to carry her in his arms to put her back in bed. I don't know what happened next, but she didn't come back to my room after that, at least I think so. The next morning, Koharu apologized profusely, and of course I told her that it was fine, nobody got hurt and it's not like she could control her sleepwalk. I did tell them, however, that she whispered something while she was in my room. I told them that I didn't believe in ghosts, but that I do think that some homes just don't align well with the occupants' well-being. I'm talking about feng shui, of course. I think the general pronunciation is feng shui, which is the metaphysical and philosophical ideology that's utilized to harmonize individuals with their surrounding. Kind of like that. I don't believe the spiritual aspect of it, but there are some practical suggestions that conform well with common sense. I'm also talking specifically about the Korean practice of harmony and surroundings. I mentioned feng shui only because that's what most people are familiar with. For example, Koreans talk about decorating and arranging the entrance of your home with bright and lively things. It makes sense because you want your guests to come into a well-lit, bright home, and of course you also want to come and go feeling welcomed and positive in general. There are some spiritual aspects of the Korean practice as well, but again, I only prescribe the practical aspect of it. It's useful. At any rate, Koharu sleepwalked twice more for the rest of my stay. I wasn't scared anymore, although she did startle me on both occasions. I left Japan after a week. I had a great time and it was really sad saying goodbye to Masaki again. But he did send me a good news after about 4 months. He told me they had moved to a new place about 2 months after I had left. Apparently, Koharu stopped sleepwalking as soon as they moved. He said she hasn't sleepwalked in over 2 months and that she was full of energy like the way she was when they first met. He thanked me, I said I was happy for them, and guess what? They are married today and they have a beautiful young girl between them. So to wrap up the story, I don't know what it was about that apartment that made her sleepwalk. I really don't know. The spiritual leaning people will tell you that a negative energy was affecting her or that some kind of evil spirit was haunting her, I suppose. The more practical person, I think, might say that she associated the new apartment with stress and fear since that was the first time she had lived with someone other than her parents. I think people associate objects and things with the memories that correspond to them, then unknowingly or unconsciously fear, loathe, or love those objects and things without realizing it consciously. I can't say which is correct because I really don't understand what the cause and effect was for that given situation. All I know is that she's doing well, Masaki seems truly happy with her, and that's good enough for me. And that's all I've got for you for today. I got a little too excited while telling the story with my voice all high-pitched and whatnot. I've got some videos in the works, but lately things have been really busy at work, and this is the best that I could do with the time I had. I do apologize for the lack of content. I think the rest of the week shouldn't be too bad, and so I'm hopeful that I should be able to upload a proper scary video before the end of the week. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.